Sorry, let me pause. It's my dog. She's she's not done this all day. And then it's the second we start.
So joining me today, guys, we have Kerry for this question and answer session. How are you doing today, Kerry?
I'm good.
Joining me as well, we've got Tim, and this is the first time, Tim, isn't it, that you've done a Q&A?
It sure is, yeah.
Tell everybody what you do, Tim, at Capital Games.
Sure thing. So I'm a feature producer here. So I'm responsible for all the kind of major features such as territory wars, territory battles. I should say my whole team is responsible for that. So I lead that team.
And Tim is kind of like the counterpart to Top Hat. Nick, who has done a couple of these Q&As. Nick is responsible for content and the live stuff. And so he really does things that get patched up kind of every other week and, the sort of the content updates. And Tim is responsible for the title updates. And as he points out, his whole team does the work. We producers just come and talk about it.
Exactly.
That's pretty awesome, man. I'm really happy again for you guys being on this video. But we're going to jump into the questions because we've got a good few questions here. So you guys are mentioning in the Road Ahead blog that some changes were coming to chat. Why did you decide to go with chat instead of anything else?
Whenever there's a movie, we get a lot of new players into the game. So obviously we've been thinking about solo for a while now and what we could do for the group of people coming in with solo. But also last year for us, the addition of territory battles and territory wars was a very kind of purposeful thing to make guilds very, very important and very useful and to sort of increase guild activity. And that worked, but it almost worked too well because now everybody in the guild is required. And I've mentioned this before in some of the recent communications, but what that means is, like, if you have a friend that you want to bring into the game or somebody you told about the game, that for a very long time, until really their max level, if you're a competitive player, they're going to live a very kind of isolated, like lonely experience because there's really no way for them to understand what's going on, talk to other people, see kind of the life of the game as far as it pertains to other people inside of the game. So it was a priority for us, knowing that solo was coming and knowing that last year we had made guilds so useful that we wanted something for those new players coming into the game.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait for this next question. And so what can you tell us about the chat changes?
I'm really excited about the changes we've made to chat. One of the kind of limitations with the current chat is that there's only one channel. And so people are in there trying to talk about the territory battle, and at the same time they're talking about their progress in like the state of the Sith raid and so on. And so it really gets hard to be able to sparse all that data that's in there, all the different conversations. And so one of the major things that we're doing is we're adding additional channels to chat. We are opening up those channels for officers. So officers will now be able to have 5 different chat channels, which they can kind of name whatever they want. Yeah, exactly. You could have one for territory wars, battles, so on. And inclusion in that is one advantage that we are able to provide to players is as players are being promoted into officers, they can actually have a officer specific chat that will only have the officers in there. And as officers are promoted and demoted, it will update those things automatically.
Yeah, that's definitely that's really interesting. I like the sound of it. I'm loving the sound of that. It cleans up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And our chat system, we know it's a little bit kind of bulletin board-esque right now. And so to some degree, there are advantages to that because you don't want it to get too spammy. So the idea of sort of separating out chat channels for people to decide what they want to talk about and where was kind of the impetus for that. But there's also a couple other different types of chat channels.
Exactly. Yeah. So in addition to the guild chat, we also have these chats that we're calling friends chat. So a friends chat is something that can scale anywhere from doing a direct message with one other player in the game, all the way to having a group of 500 people all within that. That
500?
can be across, any guilds, up to 500. Correct.
That's a lot.
It is. So, we expect that in a lot of instances, people will just want to reach out to, one other person, and you can go right into their player profile, click a button and start a chat with them. You can also go and add more people into that so that, people who are, maybe they're friends from high school or from work or whatnot. They don't happen to be in the same guild.
Or
alliances, exactly. There's this opportunity now for them to all be in the same chat and chatting with each other directly with the game.
And that's, I think, advantageous too, because there are times where you can't reach someone outside of the game or you want to just quickly ping them. And certainly I think it will be helpful for recruiting. We've been talking to guild leaders who were like, I want to be able to tell tell somebody where they are on the waiting list and, not have to kind of drag them in and out of game, and how people can apply with more specificity, like, hey, I want to be in your guild. So we expect that this will drive sort of guild recruiting inside of the game even further.
Yeah, it's especially as well, like trying to get hold of somebody to do their 600 and like sending them messages, and they're in game and you send them messages, do 600 or you're going to get kicked. And then they get kicked because they just didn't open the second, third party app or whatever app they're using. So now it can just be posted and you could directly, wow, that is mind blowing. I've always wanted this feature implemented, especially because I come from a background of playing on the Xbox Live, and I like to send people messages saying like noob,
So there's definitely going to be absolute like advantages for that as well. When you're doing competitive stuff, you can kind of, maybe get in there, and we are conscious of the fact that we also want to allow people the chance to mute people or report people so that there isn't too much spam. I think, for me personally, coming from an MMO background, it was one of the reasons why we didn't go straight to full open world chat, because when you put in world chat in a free-to-play game in particular, you open yourself up to a lot of spamming and a lot of, and don't get me wrong, I think there are a lot of interesting things about world chat, but we wanted to start with this and see how people responded to this kind of stuff. And we wanted to make it not so overwhelming so that it was actually kind of useful, interesting, especially for Galaxy of Heroes. Our players are so strategic and intense that we didn't wanted it to be focused, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. I'm so stoked. Stoked about it.
Awesome. There's actually, that's only the beginning. So
there's more?
So one of the things we're finding is that the exchange feature, where you're doing donations, sometimes it can easily kind of forgotten about because it's over in this one corner of guilds. So we've actually made it so that the exchange donations will show up in your guild chat, and you can donate directly from that channel.
That's a lot easier then, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it'll actually really increase the amount of kind of engagement in that feature. People will see that someone asked for a donation instead of actually forgetting about it.
It's like, when do you go into, like, from a player point of view, when do you actually go into that donation chat? Realistically is when you're requesting, or if you're a really nice player, do you go in there just to give your gear away?
Exactly.
But other than that, me personally, I'll go in there maybe once a day, and that's when it forces me to go in when I ask for it, for the gear.
So now that'll be surfaced right to you. And speaking of surfacing, another thing that we've heard as a request a lot is, you're new to a guild, someone's in chat and you're not really sure if this person has authority. Is this actually the leader or not? They kind of like do some research. And so now in the guild channels, it'll actually show if you're the leader or officer or a member in the chat, so you can have that sense of authority a bit more.
No, I guess, it's definitely for the newer players. The newer players are going to love it because
exactly. I mean, that's the thing is we know that people in sort of the really kind of hardcore guilds, they know exactly who they're looking for. They know exactly who they need to sort of listen to. But, we think about doing things for all different parts of the spectrum of the player base. And so this is one of those things that we really wanted to do for kind of the newer players. But I'm going to like sort of segue into the fact that we do have things in this upcoming update. And I think we didn't necessarily mention that all of this stuff that we're talking about is coming out in TU12, which is our next major title update. We've been cagey about giving the exact kind of month because,
of course,
we say a month and then all
another meme will get created.
August is banned inside of studio. I said it before. I'll say it again. No one's allowed to say that word except me. And so this is all sort of in the next major kind of title update. And so we definitely have been thinking about kind of the other players as well too.
Wow, I love it because it's about the retention, isn't it? When someone, especially with the solo, which I think the solo movie looks great. I cannot wait for it. It looks just fresh, new. It reminds me a lot of Guardians. Same kind of style, but with Han Solo, and it's going into the origins and just building a new story. And who knows, they could make a trilogy from Han Solo. If everyone goes and watch it, guys, remember that we'll get some more Han Solo movies. But the new players, it's the hype, isn't it? And it's about then if a player comes to a guild and they don't know who they are, they feel isolated. When I first started playing, there was no guilds, there was none of that. It was just literally finding people on the EA forum. That was it. That was the only communication. And now with it built in, it's exactly how you make friends on Xbox Live. It's now becoming really very communicative, you know, and
That's right. I still log into Xbox Live every day to check in with the people that I play Overwatch with, even though I'm not currently playing Overwatch. But like that kind of thing. It's like the community in online games is so intense and so important and special that like we recognize that and we want to help build that. But that also means not just the community you have right now, but the potential future community that comes from all of the people that are going to be coming into the game over the next months and years and decades, hopefully.
That's good news. I love this game. So let's go on. So what's going to happen then with other platforms like Discord and Line?
Yeah, so we don't expect people to replace Discord or Line or any of the other kind of tools that they use for the kind of communication that they have. I've been spending a lot of time in Discord lately, and all of the things that can do, like we really couldn't replicate it and maintain sort of file size and all the things that we want to do. We'd spend a long time trying to replicate it. We don't want to do that. This is really about surfacing that kind of middle ground needs for newer players, and to also, like you said, like maybe you can't log into Discord at work, so you want to quickly ping someone and say do your 600 or whatever the case may be. We want it to sort of supplement those and still allow people the richness that exists within those tools.
And part of the chat stuff involved vanity titles. Can you explain further on this?
Yeah, definitely. So something that's really important to us was to provide some features that would really engage the elder players as well. And so we wanted to create this idea of titles, which is something that is very hard to get. It's really when you have a title, it's showing that you've done some great accomplishment in the game. And so what it will happen is whenever you're in chat and you're, chatting with someone else in like one of those friends chats, normally you'll have your guild name there, which you can show off. You can also choose to pick one of the titles that you had unlocked for having done some great accomplishment in the game. Something awesome about titles is, we'll launch with a few early on, but this is really something that we can continue to add as we have new features and as identify new kind of really difficult challenges that people would consider very prestigious.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about vanity is that obviously Gauss of Heroes, like the collection is important and the GP is important and people, are prideful about all of those things, but there is a degree to which you want to be able to sort of have the bragging rights and say, I'm this awesome because I did this thing. And, having built titles and achievement systems before, I can tell you that like over time, what's interesting is what is considered a valuable title will shift as more and more people get certain ones. And then people will find even more elusive ones and then want to get those. And so it becomes its own kind of meta, which is like, what is the coolest title to have right now? It's one that other people don't have, or we all want this one because we like the name of it. And so just the idea that titles are the kind of first step, it's really just like a toe into the pond, if you will, of like all the things that we could do that people can use as bragging rights. And because we've now created this chat room that can be up to 500 people that consists of a combination of people that are in your guild or on your friends list or on your friends guilds or guilds friends or, like all those different sort of permutations, that people that you've never met before can sort of be like, oh, who's that guy? Based on titles and other things kind of in the channel.
Exactly. And it's worth mentioning that the player profile will actually show all the titles you have. So you can pick whatever title you want to kind of show off in various places like chat or the leaderboards. But people can go in there and when they're, say, trying to do recruitment, they can actually see how many titles you had done. And maybe that's very necessary towards, getting into one of the top guilds.
One title I could probably say, like a good challenge if it wasn't already thought about, Rancor Devourer.
Oh,
Last
nice.
person left against it takes it down.
Yeah.
Rancor Devourer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, I saw you mention that more guild and officer management stuff is coming. Anything else for veteran endgame players?
Yes. So a common theme we hear from, officers is that they have a lot of things to do and always want to create more tools, just like we did with territory battles and wars, create more tools to be able to, allow them to manage their guilds easier. So one of the new tools that we're providing is the ability to go into any tier of the raid and actually have that raid auto summon when at a specific time. So for example, let's say at 6 p.m., my time zone, I want to have this thing kick off, assuming that we have enough tickets. So if we have enough tickets, it'll just automatically kick off at that time. The other aspect of that is that, a lot of guilds have taken on this 24-hour role where you have to go and post 0, right? So that everybody gets an opportunity, which can be a bit of an annoying process.
Finding who hasn't posted a 0 yet.
Exactly.
And making sure that
so
they do. And
so what this new feature, in a nutshell, what it's going to do is, if this is correct saying, able to open raids at a certain time And will it be locked from any damage until another timer kicks in, like another further kind of like embargo on it? Would that be something?
Yeah. So that's part of it. There's actually even more. So you'll be able to kick it off in a specific time, and you will be able to kind of set a period of time that you can't do any damage to it. But during that time, any member of the guild can come in and just push a join button, similar to what they do with Territory Wars, and that'll just auto post to 0 for that player.
So no more chasing down the people who accidentally hit the boss.
Yeah, that's it.
And exactly. And then, kind of on top of that, we're going to be putting in some kind of dashes for players that hadn't actually joined yet. So the leaders who want to make sure everybody goes and posts that 0 can kind of easily find the individuals that haven't posted a 0 yet, and be able to track them down. They just do a direct message right to them and tell them to post.
And all three of those things are very time consuming for guild leaders and officers, and we know that. You know what I mean? Like having to go and reverse engineer who didn't post the 0 and then chase down the people who posted too much and logging in exactly at the time that you guys have agreed to kick off a raid. And so I think the hope here is with every update, we think about things that we want to do to save time, because we know that people's time is precious and we want them to spend the time doing the thing they want to do and not like tedious management stuff. And it's hard because we want to do so much of it that it can sometimes be overwhelming. And so trying to balance that with everything else, this really felt like the priority. And so that's where we focused.
It sounds great. Days are gone when someone accidentally solos the Runker at the wrong time.
Yes.
Those days are going to be gone. They're in the rear view. So guys, are you open to the thought of putting Galen Merrick into the game? Making him light side, dark side.
I think people are sick of hearing me say that we can't comment on characters when they're going to come into the game. Although that would be super cool. And so, I'm sorry, we don't have a good answer for you.
Oh.
I know.
Oh no! But if we made a petition for Galen Merrick and Jedi Luke and Revan too, would that help speed up these characters? Could have Kyle Katarn on there, Mara Jade, Jake and
I would say that petitions don't help. I think some of the team would prefer I stop reading Reddit so much. But no, I mean, and the forums, we do really, really care what people think. In fact, actually, we do something in game. It's a customer satisfaction survey. We ran one for everybody, not that long ago during sort of the communication spurt that we started off, a couple weeks ago. But those things run all the time. They run monthly. It's just that they go to a random sampling of people. They don't normally get to go to everybody. And so those things have all kinds of questions about, would you be interested in this character or that character? Would you be interested in this kind of gameplay? And it's I should say it's filled with real things and fake things. So it's not an indicator, but it's absolutely something that we use to make a decision, as well as looking at the community and looking at what people care about. And so if Galen Merrick is something that people want, we want it too, for sure. It's the beauty of how rich this license is.
Okay, I've got one more last question for you then, if that's okay. So we've got Sion added, Treya. We already had Nihilus. We had Sith Marauder. But why was Visas Marr added?
Well, Visas Marr is sort of the answer to the Sith Triumvirate and sort of definitely one of the cooler characters in KOTOR 2. And so I think for us, it was about thinking about sort of the characters and how they fit in the story together and what the experience of the Triumvirate was. It was very exciting for us, especially a lot of us are old school KOTOR fans, to be able to kind of revisit that universe. And, the art team was able to sort of build out some environments that, people haven't seen quite built out since the original game. And so I think that was just such a cool opportunity for Lucas to let us have. And so we just sort of went with the ones that we thought felt the best fit narratively.
I'm so looking forward to Jedi Luke. I really am.
I see what you're trying to do there. I will not be trapped by you.
But no, I think that's all the questions that I've got. Is there anything that you'd like to add to this conversation video, like when Jedi Luke's coming, Revan, Merrick?
No, I just want to say good job, Tim, because I tease Tim all the time for being a robot, because he's a very kind of serious person. And so, he's a very different person than Nick. And I think that's great for the team. Also, but good job on your first Q&A.
Yay!
Yeah, well done, buddy. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys and girls.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, may the Force be with you. Always.
So with you.